Heart Eyes 2025 begins in Seattle during Valentine's Day week, when the city is covered in romantic decorations, flowers, and couples celebrating love. However, beneath the festive atmosphere hides a terrifying serial killer known as the Heart Eyes Killer. For several years, this masked murderer has traveled from city to city every Valentine's Day, brutally targeting couples in love. The police are unable to predict his next move because he always changes locations and leaves behind gruesome crime scenes marked with heart-shaped symbols. As the news spreads, many people cancel their romantic plans, while others believe the danger is exaggerated. The opening scenes quickly establish that love itself has become the killer's hunting ground. The story then introduces Ally, a talented but emotionally exhausted advertising executive who has recently gone through a painful breakup. Because of her failed relationship, she has lost faith in romance and now focuses entirely on work. Her latest assignment is to create a Valentine's Day campaign, but ironically, she hates everything about the holiday. Her boss criticizes her lack of enthusiasm and insists she work with Jay Simmons, a charming freelance marketing expert known for his creativity and confidence. Ally immediately dislikes Jay, believing he is arrogant and overly flirtatious, while Jay finds Ally cold and difficult to approach. Despite their constant arguments, Ally and Jay are forced to spend several days together developing the advertising campaign. Their personalities clash in almost every conversation. Jay believes love should be celebrated, while Ally argues that relationships usually end in disappointment. Their debates create humorous moments, but subtle chemistry slowly develops between them. Friends and coworkers notice the growing attraction before they do, teasing them about behaving like a couple. Neither wants to admit the obvious because both are protecting themselves from emotional pain. As Valentine's Day approaches, the Heart Eyes Killer claims more victims. The murders become increasingly bold, with couples attacked in restaurants, parks, and hotels. News broadcasts repeatedly warn citizens to avoid public displays of affection. Detectives struggle to connect the victims beyond the fact that they all appeared to be deeply in love. The killer always wears a terrifying mask with glowing heart-shaped eyes, making him instantly recognizable but impossible to identify underneath. Fear spreads throughout the city as everyone wonders who will become the next target. One evening, Ally and Jay meet for dinner to discuss their campaign. Although it begins as a professional meeting, laughter gradually replaces awkwardness. They genuinely enjoy each other's company for the first time. Unfortunately, strangers nearby mistake them for a romantic couple. Hidden in the shadows, the Heart Eyes Killer watches them carefully. Since his victims are always couples, he marks Ally and Jay as his next targets. Without realizing it, a simple business dinner turns them into prey in a deadly game. Their nightmare begins when the killer suddenly attacks the restaurant. Panic erupts as people scream and flee in every direction. Ally and Jay barely escape through a back exit, while several innocent people are injured or killed. They initially assume the attack was random, but after discovering the killer continues following them, they realize they have become specific targets. Terrified and confused, they contact the police, who promise protection but struggle to understand why the murderer has become obsessed with them. Detectives investigate Ally and Jay's backgrounds, searching for any personal connection to previous murders. None exists. The only explanation is that the killer genuinely believes they are romantically involved. This revelation shocks Ally and Jay because they have barely admitted their own feelings. Meanwhile, the killer continues stalking them, silently observing their every move. Security cameras repeatedly capture the masked figure, appearing just moments before disappearing again, creating the sense that nowhere is truly safe. The pair are placed under police protection, but the Heart Eyes Killer proves incredibly intelligent. He manipulates security systems, creates distractions, and separates officers from their assignments. Every carefully planned escape seems to fail. Ally begins experiencing constant anxiety, unable to distinguish genuine safety from temporary survival. Jay, however, refuses to abandon her despite having opportunities to leave. His loyalty slowly breaks down Ally's emotional walls, making her realize he genuinely cares about her rather than simply trying to impress her. During one terrifying chase through Seattle's streets, Ally and Jay narrowly avoid capture after hiding inside an abandoned building. While waiting in silence, they finally open up about their personal lives. Ally reveals how betrayal destroyed her trust in relationships, while Jay admits he often hides his loneliness behind humor and confidence. Their emotional conversation becomes one of the film's strongest moments because it transforms their relationship from reluctant coworkers into two vulnerable people learning to trust each other. As investigators analyze previous crime scenes, they notice the killer carefully stages each murder with Valentine's Day decorations. Roses, chocolates, candles, and heart-shaped symbols surround every victim. The detective leading the investigation suspects the murders are driven by deep psychological trauma connected to failed love rather than simple hatred. However, the killer's identity remains hidden, and every new clue seems to raise even more questions. Public fear intensifies as Valentine's Day itself becomes associated with death instead of romance. Ally and Jay attempt to leave the city temporarily, believing distance may save them. Unfortunately, the Hard Eyes killer anticipates their escape. At a remote location, another violent confrontation forces them to run once again. The sequence combines suspense, action, and horror as they desperately search for safety, while the masked figure relentlessly pursues them. Each escape becomes more difficult because the killer appears to understand exactly how they think. Throughout their ordeal, Ally gradually realizes she has fallen in love with Jay. She resists admitting it because she fears losing him just as she lost happiness in previous relationships. Jay also struggles with his emotions, worrying that confessing his feelings might distract them from surviving. Their growing romance directly contrasts with the killer's hatred of love, making their relationship the emotional center of the story. Love becomes both their greatest strength and the reason they remain targets. Police eventually identify a possible suspect whose past reveals emotional trauma connected to Valentine's Day and failed relationships. Investigators race to locate him before another attack occurs. Although several clues appear convincing, unexpected twists prevent an immediate arrest. The movie cleverly misleads viewers, encouraging them to suspect multiple characters before revealing the truth. This mystery element keeps tension high alongside the horror and romance. The Hard Eyes killer launches his most ambitious attack during a major Valentine's celebration filled with couples. Hundreds of people suddenly find themselves trapped as chaos spreads across the event. Ally and Jay become separated in the confusion, forcing each to survive alone. The killer uses fear itself as a weapon, manipulating crowds and exploiting panic. These scenes showcase the film's blend of slasher horror and large-scale suspense. Jay risks his own life searching for Ally instead of escaping. His determination proves how deeply he loves her. Meanwhile, Ally refuses to abandon hope, using her intelligence rather than physical strength to avoid the killer. Their separate survival stories eventually lead them back together. Instead of running apart, they finally choose to face the danger side by side, symbolizing the trust they have built throughout the film. During the climactic confrontation, the killer corners Ally and Jay. A brutal struggle follows as they fight desperately for survival. The masked murderer appears almost unstoppable, overpowering both of them multiple times. However, their teamwork allows them to exploit small weaknesses and gradually gain the advantage. Unlike earlier scenes where fear controlled them, they now act courageously because they are fighting not only for their own lives but also for each other. The killer's identity is finally exposed, revealing a deeply disturbed individual whose twisted view of love has fueled years of violence. Rather than seeing couples as innocent people, he views them as symbols of everything he believes was stolen from him. His obsession has transformed heartbreak into murderous revenge. Although his motives explain his behavior, the film makes it clear that personal suffering never justifies harming others. In the final battle, Ally and Jay manage to defeat the Hard Eyes killer with assistance from arriving police officers. After an intense struggle, the murderer is finally stopped, ending the cycle of Valentine's Day killings that had terrorized multiple cities. Survivors begin recovering, while investigators close one of the most disturbing serial murder cases in recent history. The city slowly returns to normal, though the emotional scars remain. With the danger over, Ally reflects on how the experience completely changed her outlook on life. She entered the story believing love only brought pain, but discovered that genuine love also provides courage, hope, and strength during impossible situations. Jay likewise realizes that real relationships require honesty, patience, and sacrifice rather than superficial charm. Their shared survival creates a bond far stronger than ordinary romance. Hard Eyes 2025 concludes with Ally and Jay embracing a hopeful future together after surviving unimaginable horror. The film successfully combines romantic comedy, slasher horror, suspense, and mystery into one entertaining story. Its central message is that fear and hatred may try to destroy love, but genuine trust and compassion are stronger than violence. Even after facing a relentless killer who targeted happiness itself, Ally and Jay prove that choosing love over fear is the greatest victory of all.